Sickness is an obvious phenomenon in life. To possess a human body is to have sickness. Each of us may experience sickness one or many times. If not now, then later. If not severely, then mildly. If someone has never been sick up to this moment, that is a great blessing. But at the very least, that person has witnessed their loved ones fall ill and knows for certain that at some point, they themselves may become sick. Therefore, sickness is a phenomenon very close to humans that we all have more or less experience with, either directly or indirectly. Speaking of sickness, everyone may think of pain, suffering, discomfort, sadness, anxiety, fear, and countless other negative psychological states. Whenever there is sickness, there is pain. No one denies this, but the important thing is how, despite the pain of the body, we do not suffer in the mind. You may wonder to the point of surprise, how can one be sick without being sad or suffering? I used to wonder the same after being sick a few times. But later, instead of wonders, there were lessons I realized for myself. Here, I would like to share with you a few positive aspects when being sick or having to live with sickness. 1. Sickness is an opportunity to recognize body signals. When we suffer from a certain illness, we should not be quick to feel sad, depressed, or feel that we are unfortunate compared to many others. Sickness is an inevitability once we take on a human body, so its arrival for one person and not yet for another is merely a matter of time. There is no injustice here. Regard sickness as an opportunity to receive the signals your body is sending to let you know something is wrong within. For example, when you feel chest tightness, you know this reminds you to see a doctor for an examination. And thus, it is very likely you will know and avoid or delay coronary heart disease before it is too late. Most illnesses progress from mild to severe and are accompanied by symptoms. If we know how to listen to our body to receive signals of change in time and have appropriate handling methods, we have partly known how to maintain good health and bring happiness to ourselves, our loved ones, and society. Some terminal illnesses, such as cancer, still have the possibility of treatment if detected in the early stages. The same goes for other diseases. Therefore, there is nothing to be sad about when we hear the body is not well. Instead, we should be happy, or if we cannot be happy, then at least be calm, because at the very least, we are receiving the signals the body is sending us. Moreover, through such an instance of receiving signals, we develop the ability to listen to our body more regularly. Thanks to that, we know how to adjust our diet and lifestyle to better suit our constitution. 2. Sickness is a sign for you to know that you need to adjust for a more comfortable life. Usually, when we know we are sick, we often allow negative psychology to arise. The instinct for survival urges humans to want to live, so they are dissatisfied when sickness comes to them, leading to a collapse of spirit and the emergence of fear. Anyone with such a psychology is significantly contributing to the destruction of their own body and making the illness more severe despite the intervention of therapeutic methods. Many illnesses and pains arise from psychological stress. Cardiovascular diseases, blood pressure, and stomach issues are all related to psychological disorders. An unstable and unbalanced psychology is one of the causes that easily leads to disorders in metabolic processes in the body and causes disease. Therefore, when we are sick, we need to realize that this is the body's way of telling us that the mind needs more rest and needs to learn how to transform stress more effectively. Doing so helps the body heal quickly and effectively prevents future illness. 3. When sick, we see the need to care for our consciousness and spiritual life becomes more necessary. While healthy, we imagine ourselves to be immortal, so caring for our inner life does not seem like a very necessary issue. When sick, we only then feel the sense of being adrift, empty, and fearful. At that time, we realize that what we truly lack is a solid spirit, a steadfast inner self to be firm in such situations. From there, we learn how to care for our mind. In fact, the need to care for consciousness should be carried out regularly rather than waiting until one is sick, because it is even more necessary than caring for the body. However, usually, we pay little attention to this need and thus do not recognize it. Therefore, many people, after falling ill, often return more to a spiritual life. For myself as well, The first time I was sick, I was very sad and discouraged. Later, I saw my spirit was weak. That would not do. When I am sick and restless, my loved ones become more worried, and nothing is gained. Then the next time I was sick, I knew how to make myself feel better. And now, carrying a chronic illness, I have learned how to live with the disease and have drawn many experiences from this coexistence to make life more pleasant. A principle I have drawn is that whenever my mind is peaceful and less agitated, I feel less pain. That is to say, if the body is sick, the body aches. But just because the body aches doesn't mean the mind must suffer. In fact, when the body aches, only a few parts and a few areas are in pain. Inflating the pain to the whole body and spreading it even to the mind is another disease, more difficult to solve than the clinical illness one is suffering from. Whenever we let the suffering of the mind attach to the pain of the body, that suffering is extremely poignant and agonizing. 4. Sickness teaches us about impermanence. Old age, sickness, and then at the end of the journey of a human life is death. All these natural phenomena occur continuously within humans and all species and things. The stages, as we temporarily call them, though in reality there are no boundaries, of birth, growth, old age, and decay are intertwined along an axis called life, where one pole is being born into the world and the other pole is death. At a more subtle level, we need to understand that in every split second, many cells in the body die and many new cells are born. However, to see the change, there must be specific, clear, and larger transitions. Once sick, we easily recognize that we are changing stages. Being aware of impermanence helps us be more conscious of how to use and manage our own time, as well as adjusting relationships with those around us to have a more meaningful life. Only those who have gone through a serious illness can fully understand that good health is an invaluable asset, so that afterwards, they do not waste that asset. 5. Sickness makes us grow in compassion. When we are sick, we understand the pain of others more, especially those who suffer from the same illness as us or more severe ones. The ancients said, "Those with the same illness sympathize with each other," and it is indeed true. In pain, we feel we are not fighting this disease alone, thinking of those who endure the same pain as us or even more. We can easily open our hearts in love even to strangers. The spirit of empathy, understanding, and sharing with fellow patients is very great. If we continue to nurture this good mind, it means we are nurturing our compassion. Thanks to that, we will have positive and practical actions contributing to helping patients ease their pain through our own experience. In reality, when witnessing illness, the relatives of the patient also expand their hearts and empathy towards other patients. Programs like Thai's Dream or Ben's Smile are vivid examples of the shared empathy of those whose loved ones were once pediatric cancer patients toward children with the same fate. 6. Sickness helps us nurture a mind of humility and contentment. When sick, we suddenly remember that our life is not without limits. Human limitation is a common truth since ancient times, but normally we are not fully aware of our limits. If we see others sick, we imagine that sickness only comes to that person and not to us. Until we ourselves or our loved ones are sick like many others, we realize in time that everyone is subject to the laws of nature, pain, old age, sickness, and death. Being aware that we are no better than others, at least in this law of nature, helps us reduce our pride and become humbler in life. Through an instance of sickness, we can significantly reduce our greed and desires. Through an instance of sickness, we can know how to organize our lives more effectively and better. 7. Sickness helps us have more will and determination. Will and determination are life skills that need to be practiced in many different situations in life. So why skip the opportunity of sickness to practice this skill? I have been sick many times and I have realized one thing. After each time I am sick, I become stronger, more determined, and then the time sickness comes and goes also become gentler. Actually, I was able to do this also thanks to thinking of my father. A man who returned from the battlefield with only one arm and a leg that could never be folded because of a surgery. Even though during the years on the battlefield, my father only knew how to hold needles, scalpels, and syringes and never knew how to hold a gun. With the arm he lost, my father had to endure pain through 3 amputations, the first cutting the hand, the second removing the elbow joint due to infection, the third cutting further due to another infection. Yet my father still lived happily, always positive in thought and action, passing his remaining determination and vitality to his children. Therefore, every time I am in pain or sick, sometimes lying down for a whole month, sometimes with agonizing and uncomfortable toothaches, when a dislocated ankle took a whole week to walk again, and currently the persistent pain that has followed me for several years, I still find it as nothing compared to the pain of my father. Thinking like that, I overcome the pain more easily than I imagined. Such a way of thinking is the most effective painkiller for myself. Above, I have shared the benefits when being sick. Saying so does not mean I want myself or you, or anyone to be sick. Sickness is a phenomenon outside of human will. The things above are simply a few methods that I use whenever I am sick. These are methods that support medical treatment, making the illness heal faster and helping the patient not waste too much energy to fight the disease. If you find anything suitable for you, please try to apply it. I believe it will be effective. The general principle for enduring and living with sickness, for chronic diseases and permanent disabilities due to accidents, is that when the body aches, do not let the mind suffer because of the body's pain. Regard sickness as an uninvited guest, and treat it politely. Do not chase it away, because once chased away, it will resist. What we need to do is create the most suitable environment for it to leave on its own. Let go, and it will leave on its own without a word of farewell. My friends,